What are you watching?
What are you watching? Elodie, le film!
Here's the story script. I still remember the day I stepped into Titanic City Taksim, with my heart full of hope and my mind full of excitement. I had heard so much about this 4-star hotel, about its grandeur and its exceptional service. But, oh, how my dreams were shattered. As I entered the hotel, I was immediately struck by the smell. It was like someone had mixed all the worst odors in the world and sprayed them everywhere. I could smell the stench of stale cigarettes, the pungency of old sweat, and the mustiness of damp carpets. My stomach churned, and I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. How could a hotel, especially one that boasted of being 4-star, allow such a filthy atmosphere to pervade its corridors? I approached the front desk, hoping that the staff would be more welcoming than the ambience. But, oh dear, I was wrong. The receptionist barely looked up from her phone, her eyes flicking over me with a mixture of disdain and boredom. She took my reservation, but not before making a snide comment about my nationality. I felt a sting of hurt, and my heart sank. This was not the welcome I had expected. As I made my way to my room, I couldn't help but notice the tiny size of the elevator. It was like a miniature box, barely big enough for 2 people. I felt claustrophobic, my anxiety rising with every passing second. And when I finally reached my room, I was shocked to find that it was even smaller than the elevator. The bed was tiny, the pillows flat, and the TV ancient. I felt like I was in a time warp, transported back to the dark ages. But, I tried to make the best of it. I settled in, hoping that the hotel would redeem itself in some way. But, oh dear, it only got worse. The air conditioning was broken, and the room was stiflingly hot. I sweated and sweated, my clothes clinging to my body like a damp rag. And when I called the front desk to complain, they told me that the technician would come in 45 minutes. 45 minutes. Can you imagine? I was melting like the Wicked Witch of the West, and they were telling me to wait 45 minutes. And then, there was the food. Oh, the food. It was like they had taken all the worst leftovers from the previous night's dinner and served them to me with a smile. The chicken was dry, the rice was cold, and the vegetables were mushy. I felt like I was eating at a school cafeteria, not a 4-star hotel. And when I sent it back, they had the audacity to charge me for it. Can you believe it? They were trying to scam me, to take advantage of my trusting nature. But, the worst part was the service. The staff was rude, condescending, and completely unhelpful. They seemed to take pleasure in my misery, in watching me struggle with the broken air conditioning and the mediocre food. I felt like I was in a war zone, with the hotel staff as my enemy. And then, there were the smoking guests. Oh, the horror. They LD light up in the corridors, in the elevators, even in the rooms. I would cough and choke, my eyes watering from the smoke. And when I complained, they would just shrug and tell me that it was allowed. Allowed. Can you imagine? It was like they were condoning this dangerous behavior, encouraging people to smoke wherever they wanted. As I lay in bed that night, my heart heavy with disappointment and my mind racing with frustration, I knew that I had to get out of there. I couldn't take it anymore, this Titanic City Taksim nightmare. I packed my bags and checked out, vowing never to return to the dumps again. So, dear friends, let this be a warning to you. Avoid Titanic City Taksim like the plague. It may look grand from the outside, but trust me, it's a nightmare on the inside. The staff is rude, the rooms are tiny, and the food is disgusting. And don't even get me started on the smoking. It's a health hazard, a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. So, what do you think, dear friends? Have you ever had a similar experience? Share your stories with me, and let's vent about these horrible hotels together. Based on my analysis of businesses near Titanic City Taksim, here's the comprehensive overview. Analysis of negative reviews for businesses near Titanic City Taksim. This analysis examines common complaints and patterns across 4 establishments near Titanic City Taksim: CVK Park Bosphorus Hotel, dubb.indianchinese Bosphorus, MOC Istanbul, and Klein Phönix. Each business exhibits significant operational and service issues that detract from customer satisfaction. Below is a detailed breakdown of the recurring problems. 1. CVK Park Bosphorus Hotel key issues: theft and security concerns. Multiple guests reported stolen belongings, with housekeeping being the primary suspect. One guest had money stolen from hidden clothing, while another lost a jacket. Management failed to address these incidents responsibly, blaming guests instead of investigating. Poor hygiene and maintenance. Complaints included dirty rooms, unclean bedsheets, old furniture, cockroach sightings, and neglected bathrooms. For example, missing soap, financial misconduct, guests cited unauthorized charges, withheld refunds, and misleading pre-authorization holds. For example, a €296.91 charge never refunded, noise and disregard for guest comfort, loud music from the hotel's restaurant disrupted sleep, and staff dismissed complaints rudely. Notable quote, "This was the first time in my life something has been stolen from me in a hotel. The lack of responsibility and follow-up from hotel management only made things worse." Pattern: a systemic lack of accountability whether in security, cleanliness, or billing, suggests poor management oversight. The hotel fails to deliver on its 5-star branding, with guests feeling deceived by the price-to-value ratio. 2. Dubb.Indian Bosphorus key issues, food quality and safety, reports of food poisoning, flavorless dishes, for example, ketchup curry butter chicken, and stale ingredients, deceptive billing, hidden mandatory service charges, open food, were tacked onto bills without consent, with staff manipulating payments, for example, splitting bills to disguise extra fees, discriminatory and rude service, guests reported racial bias in seating, view tables denied to non-Turkish patrons, and dismissive staff who ignored requests, for example, serving naan 15 minutes after mains, poor value, exorbitant prices for tiny portions, for example, a single pop item for TL 65/$3+, with no complimentary elements typical of Indian dining. Notable quote, "They added a mandatory service charge hidden in the bill. I believe they resulted to this technique as they expected I will not pay the extra service fee." Pattern: a culture of exploitation whether through pricing, service, or outright discrimination, alienates customers. The restaurant prioritizes profit over authenticity or hospitality. 3. Mockness and his key issues, subpar coffee and food, consistent complaints about watery, tasteless coffee, for example, almond cappuccino likened to Americano with milk, and stale, low-quality pastries, neglectful service, staff ignored customers, for example, no follow-ups, forgotten orders, failed to provide basics like spoons/napkins, and were slow to take orders, overpriced for quality. Guests compared prices unfavorably to better local cafes, for example, TL 420 for 2 mediocre lattes. Notable quote, "We paid 420 lira here for 2 regular-size lactose-free lattes. The usual spot I go to makes much better lattes for around half the price." Pattern: a lack of attention to detail in both product and service suggests complacency. The cafe relies on aesthetic appeal rather than consistent quality. 4. Klein Phönix key issues, discriminatory entry policies, multiple reports of refusal based on gender, men denied without women, and sexuality, openly gay guests turned away, hostile security and staff, aggressive bag searches, for example, confiscating diabetic supplies, rude behavior, shoving guests, and no assistance with lost items, unsanitary and uncomfortable environment, filthy bathrooms, poor ventilation, indoor smoking, and overcrowding, scams and overcharging, hidden fees, VIP tickets with no perks, and refusal to refund denied entry. Notable quote, "At the entrance, the bag controls were worse than at an airport. The way they treated me," as analysis of negative reviews for businesses near Titanic City Taksim. Based on the provided negative reviews, it appears that the businesses near Titanic City Taksim, specifically Moretenders Cocktail Crib and Sushi, exhibit common patterns and issues that detract from their customers' experiences. Here's a detailed analysis of these issues: exclusionary and unwelcoming door policy. Several reviewers, Oscar Moreno, Thomas Jha, and Karim N, experienced difficulties with the reservation policy, which was perceived as inconvenient and arbitrary. This created a sense of exclusivity, making customers feel unwelcome. Poor customer service. Many reviewers, Oscar Moreno, Kermazi Kukulat Ali, Amish Nur Ali, Chris Gale, Shinanu Gerchetian Kaya, and Karim N, reported encountering unfriendly, unhelpful, or even hostile staff. This lack of hospitality and empathy contributed to their negative experiences. Subpar food and beverage quality. Some reviewers, Amish Nur Ali, Chris Gale, Shinanu Gerchetian Kaya, and Magdalena Tran, were disappointed with the quality of the cocktails, describing them as distasteful, unbalanced, or overpriced. Additionally, Magdalena Tran alleged that the bar served mocktails without alcohol, which was not clearly disclosed. Deceptive practices. Chris Gale and Magdalena Tran suspected that the bar was using tactics to deceive customers, such as adding service charges without clear disclosure or serving mocktails without alcohol. Lack of transparency. The reviews suggest that the businesses near Titanic City Taksim often lack transparency in their policies, menu items, and pricing. This opacity can lead to misunderstandings and frustration among customers. Noise and ambience issues. Some reviewers, JL and Kareem, mentioned that the music was too loud, which detracted from their overall experience. Inflexibility and unaccommodating behavior. Jacob Ruckhaber's review highlighted the bar's refusal to serve an alcohol-free mocktail, despite the customer's willingness to pay the full price. This inflexibility and unaccommodating behavior can be off-putting to customers with specific needs or preferences. In general, these negative reviews indicate that businesses near Titanic City Taksim may need to focus on improving their customer service, transparency, and overall hospitality to provide a more welcoming and satisfying experience for their patrons. This analysis covers all the businesses analyzed in the area and provides insights into what travelers can expect when staying near Titanic City Taksim. Oh my goodness, you know, I'm looking into crimes near Titanic City Taksim, and it's just, like, so sad, you know? Alright, so first off, there are these grocery stores around Titanic City Taksim, and they're like, super shady, you know? They'll take advantage of tourists like you, who don't speak Turkish, and they'll just, like, keep some of your change, or give you the wrong amount, or pressure you to pay cash without a receipt. It's like, how could you, you know? I mean, that's just stealing. And you know what's even worse? Other tourists have reported the same thing, so it's not like it's just one bad apple, you know? It's like, a whole bunch of them are doing it. Like, I'm imagining this tourist, she's on her first day in Istanbul, and she's all excited, and then this cashier just takes advantage of her. She probably didn't even realize what was happening until later, and by then, it was too late. I bet she felt so helpless, you know? And the worst part is, she probably didn't even report it because, like, what's the point, right? The police aren't gonna do anything anyway. And then, there are these nightclubs around Titanic City Taksim, and they're like, super sketchy, you know? They'll invite you in, and then they'll just, like, charge you an arm and a leg for drinks and extras. And if you try to complain, they'll just, like, ignore you or try to intimidate you. I mean, it's like, how can you trust anyone, you know? This one guy, he got scammed, and he tried to report it, but the police just, like, didn't care, you know? They just told him to go away, basically. Can you believe it? And don't even get me started on the taxis around Titanic City Taksim. Oh my goodness. They'll just, like, take you on a wild goose chase, and then they'll drop you off in some weird place, and demand double the fare, and shortchange you. I mean, it's like, what kind of person does that, you know? They're just, like, trying to confuse and exploit tourists. I bet that poor tourist was so frustrated, you know? And the police probably didn't even help him, because, like, they're all in on it, you know? And then, there are these restaurants around Titanic City Taksim, and they're like, super sneaky, you know? They'll swap out menus on you, and then they'll charge you double what you expected. And if you try to complain, they'll just, like, ignore you or try to confuse you. I mean, it's like, how can you trust anyone, you know? This couple, they got scammed, and they probably felt so embarrassed, you know? They probably didn't even want to eat out again after that. And finally, there are these shoe shiners around Titanic City Taksim, and they're like, super aggressive, you know? They'll just, like, block your way, and then they'll demand money from you. And if you don't give it to them, they'll just, like, get all upset and stuff. I mean, it's like, what kind of person does that, you know? They're just, like, trying to intimidate tourists into giving them money. I bet that poor tourist was so scared, you know?